Okay, so picking up where we left off, when it boils down to it, you're told that you have to decide between the choice of the lesser of two evils. Who said you had to vote for evil in the first place? That is absurd and absolutely ridiculous. Let's look at what the Libertarian candidate is saying here. I'm going to be the only candidate that does not want to bomb Iran, that wants to get out of Afghanistan now, stop our military interventions, repeal the Patriot Act and the National Defense Authorization Act. I'm going to be the only candidate that wants to end the drug war and legalize marijuana now. I'm going to be the only candidate talking about marriage equality, balancing the federal budget now, and addressing let's see, what's this word here? Something. Don't know what that is. Entitlements, I think. I'm going to be the only candidate that wants to abolish the IRS, eliminate the income tax, and abolish the Federal Reserve. And this is exactly why he will never be president. Because he will be going against the shadow government that is truly in control. Which leads me to my next point, but I don't want to jump ahead yet. Let's finish looking at the issues here. Based on what he just said, this comes into play. The government is shutting down. Remember all the government shutdowns? I can now open my lemonade stand without their regulations. I love it. That is so true. That is very, very, very true. So, where do we go from here? Well, America is a pretty big place, right? Well, you got to take it a state at a time, a piece at a time, and then you hack into the minds of the people. Now I'm going to show you why and how this situation is beyond repair. It's beyond repair because the powerful establishment has made this a circus. They've made this reality TV. As I indicated in my other video, everything is a script. Everything is reality TV, and it's false, fake made up information with crisis actors, real individuals acting as playing parts as well. It's just a really deep spider web netted scenario. But this is what they boil down to. These two people. Since when was the election a tournament? I didn't know the election was a tournament. Like a basketball tournament where it comes down to two teams, playing for the championship. Well, that's what they've made this. This is championship wrestling, NBA finals, whatever you want to call it, because how did we end up with just these two people? All right? It's not just these two people. But they want you to believe that it's just these two people. It is not. So let's look at who's really running. Well, on this year's 2016 presidential election ballot, you have Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, Gary Johnson, and Jill Stein. I do not know Jill Stein. She's with the Green Party. If I cared, then I would look into it. But I don't. The only thing I care about is this process that people believe still works. I'm here to tell you that the process really never worked, and that the powers that be have always manipulated and controlled it. Presidents are not elected, they are selected. And then they do the Vulcan mind meld on the American people to get you to vote for the one they wanted to put in office in the first place. It is a very elaborate schematic, and the American people fall for it time and time and time again. It's not two parties, Democrat, Republican. It's multiple parties and other parties whose names are not even on here, and they never will be. They won't allow it. They will not allow it. So let's do the knowledge to this. Let's sit back for a minute and break this down. Excuse me. All right. You have maybe had the benefit of taking a political science class. For those of you who have, you've heard your professor say, well, so and so can't is not electable. So and so can't get elected. They're not electable. Well, says who? Mr. Egghead. And I thought we're supposed to be a Democrat, a democratic nation, according to what they tell you in school. We're a democracy. Democracy means mob rule. If there's 500 million Americans and they're all voting, let's say all of them voted and they wanted Jill Stein to be president. Let's say tomorrow, after they count up all the votes, Jill Stein is elected president. All right? She wins the popular vote. 500 million people voted for her. No one voted for anyone else but her. Let's just assume that that happened. You're trying to tell me that she still may not win the presidency? Under a democracy, under a free and open and fair society, under a electoral process that's supposed to be free of encumbrances, she should be technically the president. Here's why the whole process, oh, she's not electable, comes into play. Because they've created a thing called an electoral college. All right? This was created after the fact. And this electoral college are a bunch of people in suits that are bought and paid for, and they vote for their constituents, which is not the state that they represent, but the pocketbook that they carry around and who funds them. So the electoral college can say, no, we want Hillary. And then Hillary will win even though no one voted for her. The American people, all 500 million of them, vote for her, Jill Stein. But the electoral college cast their vote for Hillary. Hillary wins. This is not supposed to happen, because the elected electoral college members are supposed to represent their constituents from the states they come from. And if the state says we've all voted for Jill Stein, she's supposed to be president. The electoral college is supposed to do their job, but they're not doing their job. They don't work for the state, the people that they represent. They work for the people that fund their pocketbooks. So the electoral process is broken. All right? To use church vernacular, the U.S. electoral process is not of God. All right? There you go. To use that vernacular. All right? Because you have corruption that is taken over and rules the entire process. It's supposed to be that if any one of these people want to be president, they should be able to campaign, they should be able to have debates, and they should be able to go out and let their voice be heard. And there's many ways you can do that without having Goldman Sachs and Bank of America funding your campaign. You shouldn't have to go on TV and spend tens of millions of dollars, all right, to run ads. Okay, you shouldn't have to do that. That shouldn't matter. As a matter of fact, it should be illegal. It should be illegal. There should be no donations allowed. Period. Everyone should be on a pauper's platform where you have to debate the issues, and really the candidates should really be canonized. They should be canonized on the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and they should hold town hall meetings where the individuals get to ask them, direct and involved and detailed questions as well, and it's supposed to be able to answer those questions. All right, and that's how it should be. But instead, no, you have to have a bunch of money. You have to have a lot of individuals backing you with deep pockets, so that they can, manipulate people to vote for you, and then manipulate the people within the electoral college, and manipulate the individuals in your state with Vulcan mind meld magic and things of that nature, twisting the brains of the people, and it's just a mess. So the election has already been rigged before it even started by them erasing these two candidates from your memory. You don't see them on TV. You don't see them in the debates. They're not invited. If this was a fair and open process, they will automatically be invited. And the debate would be between the four of them. And they will be canonized on the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And they'll be canonized to the point where the people in the audience could ask them questions as well. Didn't matter how long the process took. You can make the debate last a week. And everyone gets to come back and they get to talk about things, and they can have real discussions and have real talking points that lead into in-depth how I'm going to do this and fix this discussions. But that's not the case. And unfortunately, sadly enough, there are layers to this. So that even, let's say, Hillary and Donald and Gary and Jill, let's say all four, let's just say for the sake of argument that these four individuals tonight had an epiphany and a change of heart, and all of a sudden, let's say they all agreed on what they could do to make America better, and let's say that they all agreed and that their plan was absolutely amazing. Let's say their plan was spiritual. It was incredible. Let's say they wanted to do all the things that Gary Johnson said he wanted to do, and let's say they all agreed, and for real, right? And let's say that for whatever, choose a candidate that wins tomorrow. Say it's Hillary, say it's Donald, anyone, Gary, Jill, anyone. And let's say when they get in, they scrap everything, say this is what I want to do. This is what we're going to do. I assure you, without any doubt, that the individual would be assassinated on multiple levels. Their character would be assassinated. They'll probably be impeached or arrested. And if none of that worked, then they would be physically removed from office. They will be assassinated, killed, destroyed, murdered. Because the people that really run the country are behind the shadows lurking. They don't even have names. They're just there. They just do what they do. And whatever they do and say and want to happen is what they do and say and want, and it happens. And the people can do nothing about it. So it is absolutely incredible. So it doesn't matter who wins, the shadow entities, until they are removed, there can be no change regardless of who's president. Even if Mr. Gary Johnson were to win the election tomorrow, he can't implement any of those things that he said he wants to do. It would be impossible, because the only way to implement your ideas like this is if you were a king. That is the only way you could implement your will. You can't implement your will in this process. And rightfully so, there are good reasons for that. Okay, switching gears a little bit. I like this one here too. Who exactly was it who decided that the president has to be a Republican or a Democrat? See, the process has already been rigged, and it's already in a situation where there's nothing you can do about it. It's too far gone. The people that run and control this are just too powerful. So, unfortunately, like I said, it really doesn't matter who gets in office. It is impossible for you to do anything because you have no power. You're just a spokesperson, a figurehead, a face. This is ridiculous. I like this one. The Commission on Presidential Debates is not impartial. It's like Ford and Chevy executives deciding which vehicles people get to purchase and drive. We're suing for debate fairness. It's true. This is not an impartial process. It's not a fair process. And another reason why they're afraid of this man is because of this right here. Look, if you outlaw guns, only outlaws will have guns. The first people who are going to be in line to turn in their guns are law-abiding citizens. criminals are going to be left with guns. I believe that concealed carry is a way of reducing gun violence. Again, he's saying he's pro-Constitution here, the right to keep and bear arms. How do people have a problem with that? I do not know. But they do. They have a problem with taking away big government instead of having government to fulfill the role that it was intended to fulfill and do what it's supposed to do. They want it for other reasons. They want it for other purposes other than what it was intended to do. And to me, that's not only frightening, but it's ridiculous. So, what are the people to do? Not a whole lot you can do, unfortunately, in this situation. So, what I would suggest people do is not just to vote their conscience, but to do some research and deprogram yourself from what they have done to intellectually neuter the law-abiding citizens, and understand that there are more people on the ballot than just the Republican and the Democrat. All right? There's no such thing as if you don't vote for this person, you're throwing your vote away. If you vote for one of these people, you're throwing it away and ensuring this other person's going to win. That's all bunk. That's ridiculous. To me, that comment in and of itself proves just how broken the system is, and proves how unimpartial it is, and it proves that it's rigged. It is rigged. That's not supposed to happen. We need to reform the entire voting process. The entire election process needs to be revamped. It needs to be overhauled. Period. Because not only is it and should it be illegal, but it is absolutely fraudulent. So I will not belabor the point and beat a dead horse anymore. I've just explained to you how to rig an election, and this is the process they've used, and it works every time. It's even gotten so bad that the alternative media, people who should know better, are lining themselves up behind Trump. So the ones that claim to be awake, they're saying we're for Trump because he's not part of the system. And of course, the mainstream media is all for Hillary. So they've rightly divided and conquered to the point where everyone's talking about Trump versus Gary Johnson, knowing good and well that Gary Johnson will make a better president than Donald Trump. Look at it from another standpoint. What if we were voting for a king? All right, let's just put that into perspective, or a dictator. And let's say the next person to get in office has absolute power to enact any laws and legislations and things they want. Who would you want in there out of these four? Be honest. Who would you trust in there with that kind of power? I like his ideas because of what he said he wanted to do and what should be done. He's talking about killing the dragon, slaying the dragon, getting rid of the shadow government and the complexes, the military-industrial complex, the pharmaceutical complex, the prison-industrial complex. All these complexes he wants to get rid of, and rightfully so. But unfortunately, he will not be president because the mass amount of people in the popular vote, he will not win. And even if he were to win that, he won't win the Electoral College, because the Electoral College was put there and created as a gatekeeper force for the shadow government, so that they could get the people in office that they want in office. Darn the American people and what they want. That's all I got. Tomorrow, vote your conscience and do some research. And if neither one of these candidates do it for you, then write in other. Write your name in there or something else. Or don't vote at all, because at the end of the day, your vote does not count. I don't care what they tell you. I don't care how many people come on TV and say, that's ridiculous. You got no. I've already demonstrated to you and showed you how the process works. So now, think for yourself. That's all I got. Peace. Which leads me to my next point, but I don't want to jump ahead yet. Let's finish looking at the issues here. Based on what he just said, this comes into play. The government is shutting down. Remember all the government shutdowns? I can now open my lemonade stand without their regulations. I love it. That is so true. That is very, very, very true. So, okay, so picking up where we left off, when it boils down to it, you're told that you have to decide between the choice of the lesser of two evils. Who said you had to vote for evil in the first place? That is absurd and absolutely ridiculous. Let's look at what the Libertarian candidate. Where do we go from here? Well, America is a pretty big place, right? Well, you got to take it a state at a time, a piece at a time, and then you hack into the minds of the people. Now I'm going to show you why and how this situation is beyond repair. It's beyond repair because the powerful is saying here, I'm going to be the only candidate that does not want to bomb Iran, that wants to get out of Afghanistan now, stop our military interventions, repeal the Patriot Act and the National Defense Authorization Act. I'm going to be the only candidate that wants to end the drug war and legalize marijuana now. I'm going to be the only candidate talking about marriage equality, balancing the federal budget now, and addressing let's see, what's this word here? Something. Don't know what that is. Entitlements, I think. I'm going to be the only candidate that wants to abolish the IRS, eliminate the income tax, and abolish the Federal Reserve. And this is exactly why he will never be president. Because he will be going against the shadow government that is truly in control.